How are you? Everybody, if you wouldn't mind just shooting a quick message like you did for Scott in the question panel, let me know that you can see my screen and you can hear me okay. Wonderful. Good. So we're off to a good start. This is our Wednesday QA session, a little more interactive, I'd like to think, than some of our other webinars that we do. So I'm going to really throw it back to you guys about halfway into this to tell me what you want to talk about. I've been around here for 15 years, so I know as much about the software as anybody, and I'm happy to share that with you guys today. Small little presentation, but honestly, most of this is really diving into the software. I have kind of an agenda for you, to drive us, but certainly, like I said, about halfway into it, I'll go to these questions, and if you want to direct me in any certain way, whether it's custom formulas, top lists, back testing, AI, any of that, just give me a shout out for those types of subjects and we'll hit on it. First of all, we are a premium software provider. We are not an investment brokerage firm. We do not provide investment advice. So if you're looking for that type of information, please seek out a registered investment advisor. They're much more personable and knowledgeable of your own financial situation. So it's important, if that's what you're looking for, that you seek out the proper advice. Today, I'm going to talk to you about our software. But before I talk about our software, I'm going to talk a little bit about our summit. We're having a summit, a get-together, October 20th, where we have some really fine speakers, some experts in the industry, but it gives us a chance to meet you guys, to show that we're real people, we're real individuals, and it's nice. We get together. This is our third annual event, I believe. So each year it gets a little bit better and better. So excited for this one coming up on October 20th. There's a little website here, tradeidea.com, to get a little bit more information and to get your ticket. So like I said, just a quick brief presentation here from a PowerPoint perspective. And I just kind of want to talk about where we've been and where we're going. Some of the different visualization windows, as I like to call them, inside of the software. It's important as I open up the software that you're familiar with the way that we present data. 15 years ago, we started with a single concept. The concept was we want to be the best idea generation tool on the market. We only want to really focus on idea generation, and I think in doing so, it's really allowed us to excel and be the best at what we do. So these three different visualization windows, this one in the upper left is what we call our alert window. This is where we started. This is the genesis of all the technology. This is an event-based window. It lets you know when a certain event is happening, and you can configure the software to your heart's delight and set up a certain type of strategy or event to appear in this type of window. And then we have other windows over the years that really do allow us to express movement in the market, things that may be happening, and in an interactive way with our top list, which gives you a ranked list of stocks based upon your filtered criteria, and you can it's an interactive window. You can sort on all these different columns here just by double clicking, and what it does is it brings out that interesting idea to the top of that window, whether it's looking at what stocks are at the highest part of their range or what stocks are trading more volume than normal. And then this bottom window right here is just kind of a compilation of our alert window, where we allow you to really compile and compress a variety of different alert windows into this single container. So you can have 20 plus different strategies all looking for something happening in the market, and when it does, it's going to deliver that information to you. Let's go to some of the other windows, and I'll just be quick. The charting window is something that we added about 10 years after we started the software. We needed a way to really complete the visualization as to what's happening. We brought in a single stock window, a way to dive into a particular security and see exactly what's happening, but not only just what's happening based on the Trade Ideas data. One of the things that's really unique about Trade Ideas is we compile and we aggregate, I guess the best way to put it, all these different data sources in our data center in San Diego, whether it's social data, options data, data from the major exchanges, and we bring that into our data center, and in real time we're also creating new data on the fly. New data like how much has the stock moved over the last 5 minutes, what kind of volume has it done over the last 2 minutes, what type of volume is it doing now compared to normal. So all these different types of data points we're creating on the fly And using those data points in addition to just the standard market data really does allow you to find great opportunities in real time. This window in the upper right is what we call our compare count. Our compare count allows you to pit two different strategies against each other. It could be as simple as in this example here, looking at new highs and new lows. And as the market is ticking in the morning or in the afternoon, you can start to see what who has more power, which one is taking over the other one, or the bulls in control of the market or the bears in control. So another great way to look at the breadth of the market at any particular time. You could keep it aggregate from the beginning of the day, or you can clear it out and start fresh at any time. So these are all some of the different ways that we can visualize this information. We developed a backtesting tool about 7 years ago. We call it the odds maker. It's a little bit different than most backtesting experiences that you might have. A backtesting tool traditionally is like you would take Apple and go, okay, how could I trade Apple the best that I can do? You look at the data over the last 10 years and see how you can exploit it to make money in that particular security. That's kind of traditional backtesting. We do it a little bit different because we take that alert window, that event-based window, and we allow you to create a strategy in that and then hypothesize how you would do if you would perform the same set of instructions every time one of those signals appeared. So with that backtesting, it enabled us to kind of launch into the next foray of technology inside of the Trade Ideas platform, and that's the artificial intelligence. The artificial intelligence uses that kind of base architecture of our backtesting and refined it and became computer assisted. And I'll go more into, when I demonstrate the software, really how the odds maker is used from an AI perspective to create these optimal strategies and these ideas that are generated in real time that give you these statistical odds behind them, ideas that you can be pretty comfortable with based upon the historical testing that's gone into them. So this is an example right here. We're looking at an example of one of our AI channels, and recently we've expanded our AI library into 3 different segments, as we call them. So 3 different AI segments, all kind of doing some similar stuff and doing a few things different than the other AI channels. And I'll kind of talk a little bit about that as well. We're super pleased with how this has matured and grown, and we still have a lot of plans for being able to ingest these ideas, but we're also working on the ability to automate these ideas as well. Let me drop into the next slide, and that probably takes us to this next one, which is our Brokerage Plus strategy automation. This is another tool, and while it's in beta right now, we're still allowing everybody to use it. This allows you to really essentially link up with your Interactive Brokers account, and just via a right-click menu or by dropping in a strategy into Brokerage Plus, you can automate it or just get that trade executed very, very quickly with a right click. And then once it's been executed, you can manage it using this interface right here. It's a pretty comprehensive interface that gives you, similar to our AI, if you're familiar with it, we give you that P&L chart so you can see exactly how your profitability has been since the beginning of the day. And then you get a lot of other really cool abilities to manipulate your positions, either just by clicking, control clicking, or shift selecting. You can use one of our rapid execution buttons right here. On the orders tab, if an orders tab was open, you can also do some pretty sophisticated movements of the stops, the time stops, the profit targets, and all these other automated orders that go in when you decide to send an order. So we can talk a little bit about that later today as well. And then, finally, to tie it all together, and it's something that our latest release provides all users. It's something that used to be specific to just the premium subscribers, I know, which most of you are, but this is now something that we're giving to everybody. It's the price alerts. It's really something that I can't stress enough. It's one of the most simplistic, functions of our software, but it's also one of the most valuable, in my opinion, because timing's everything. And while Trade Ideas is just incredibly wonderful at finding these ideas and events where something's happening, it may not always be that spot time when it's actually taking place. So setting these price alerts allow you to not necessarily miss a target, miss a price that's crossing through a threshold, to be alerted to it and then make a trading decision right from there. All right, so let me minimize the slide here. I'm going to go to the questions here if there's something here that I could answer. So, well, yeah, the question here from Michael is, can you use the software for swing trading? And I mean, I could answer that in a lot of different ways, but I mean, specifically, yes. I mean, what we're doing here using this technology is trying to ensure that you're going to be profitable at the end of the day. Most people want to go into a swing position knowing that they're a little bit profitable in that position. So the way that our AI specifically is designed is to keep you profitable in those. And as I go through some of the trades on the AI channel, I'll show you how some of these are set up to be, you know, swing trade ideas in nature. But I don't think anything is ever specifically defined as saying I'm going to hold this position for 3 days regardless. It's usually more of a dynamic decision that goes into it. And the first decision is, let's get profitable. Let's not go negative. Let's not have my stop hit, and let's make sure that ideally by the end of the day I'm profitable in that trade, and I have the ability to make that decision on whether to continue holding it. So it's not as black and white to where I can just, you know, show you, but I will illustrate some of the ideas that were populated through our AI channel. So this is our software. It's available in a download. It's available in a web version. Honestly, I think the downloadable version is a little bit more robust. I prefer to use that, but it's nice to have the flexibility in a very robust HTML5 version of our software. We're very much like the application where everything is free-floating windows to where you can, you know, create your own desktop layout. The web browser version is very, very similar in nature to that. So it's something that you should just be aware that is available to you as a supplement to it. Now, you can't use both versions at the same time, but it's really easy to toggle one off and the other one on. Anytime this ball goes red right here, letting you know that, say, the connection's been stepped on or lost, you can always just double-click that ball, and it'll start the reconnect process. And that would be the same thing as if you had a laptop with Trade Ideas Pro on it and a desktop with Trade Ideas Pro on it. You can have them on both systems. You just can't run them simultaneously. So the channel bar is something everybody should be aware of. This is, in fact, right now I'm super close to, I'm testing out the final build here for our custom channel bar. So I expect that today, Wednesday, that maybe by the end of the week, if not by the end of the week, then certainly beginning of next week, we'll be releasing a new beta version of the software that's going to allow you to have the custom channel bar. And, you know, just by hitting the little configure icon up at the top, you can go ahead and set up an additional 5 channels on this channel bar, which would allow you to either set up individual windows, or you could set up a layout, just like we have the channels working for you right now. But aside from the customizability of it, the channel bar really does give you the ability to hit the ground running. So for some of the newer users of Trade Ideas, this is a great little tool, not only to show you what the software is capable of, but it's really intended for you to also modify it to your own specifics, you know, the things that you're looking for. Borrow things from the Surge channel, borrow something from the social media channel, and compile your own desktop workspace that's most efficient for you. And the idea is that you can see how we've configured a lot of these different windows. So whether you're starting off the day in the pre-market channel and seeing what's gapping up or gapping down, if this is something that you want to use as part of your own layout, you can just grab it, right-click over here, and select Pinned. That way it's going to stay here. Now if I go ahead and I continue to search through some of the channels, that window will stay pinned. And that's just a way to manage your layout and your workspace. We have an interesting channel here called the My Like channel. So this is something where you notice on the charts you have a little heart, and the heart is either going to be solid red or it's going to be hollow. This right here allows you to add any symbol that you may have viewed and found interesting. So if I add it here, it's now going to be part of my liked symbols, so that when I pull up this particular channel, these windows here are dialed in specifically to that symbol list of symbols that I have selected as a liked symbol. So that's something that a lot of people aren't familiar with. On the charting, we do some interesting stuff by populating a lot of information on here that should help you in your trading decisions. So let me bring in a more expensive price stock here. Yeah, something like this right here, where you can see the different levels. I have a daily chart right here. I have an intraday chart right here. This happens to be a signal. Not only was it in my life, but it happened to be a signal that was called out by the AI today. And you can see dynamically on the chart where that signal was called out, what price it was called out at, what the suggested stop is. So this is the stop that's built in. It's an algorithm based on the strategy and how that stock happens to be trading. And then some other annotations that we put on here. And I'll talk a little bit about risk on and risk off as we get into the AI channels, but suffice it to say that the risk off is the darker shaded coloring here, and the risk on takes you all the way to the close. Just as an easy explanation, each strategy in the AI channel has a certain time horizon for it. So when we back test it and go through all the metrics, each strategy may have an hour hold time or holding until 15 minutes before the close. Those are the types of time settings that we have on here. And so if in fact the time expired based on a time stop or a profit save, you're going to see the darker shading end right at the point where we got out of the trade. But all these opportunities, like was mentioned earlier by Michael, could be swing possibilities. It could be something that you may want to hold on to a position like this. And what are the deciding factors for that? One, you want to be positive in the trade. You don't want to be in a position hoping for it to move up overnight. That's not where I want to be in a position. So like I said, these are designed to try to get you profitable towards the end of the day. We put in annotations like a target. Now the target doesn't necessarily mean to liquidate everything. It may mean, just every trader is different, and there's no one way to take these opportunities and to trade them. This is a great swing opportunity. You have to understand, what's the market doing? Is this a time when I want to be holding this position? Do I want to hold it through this breakout? A lot of times these breakouts come back and retest, but sometimes it's kind of hard to get back in at the price that you want to. So, these are all the decisions that you have to make in deciding whether that is going to be something that you're going to hold. But we try to present it to you in a way that makes it visually appealing and an easy way for you to visually represent what you want to do. So why don't we dive into one of the AI channels? So we can go into the original one, which is Holy Grail. And I only usually, generally I usually only hit these channels very rarely. I usually use the segment switching, which I find to be a lot faster in my workspace layout. So I can toggle between the different AIs just by right-clicking in here and changing through the different segments. So Holly Neo had, 31 trades today, so it was pretty active. But all of these are indicative by the number of strategies that make each individual AI segment. So let me dive into really how the AI works. Let's start with that concept right there. Every single day, well, we start off with just under 50 strategy. I think we're at 48 strategies right now. So we have 48 base strategies that the Trade Ideas team has created. These are different concepts, like a stock may be breaking out, a stock may be strong yet pulling back, it may be crossing a resistance, it may be breaking down, it may have a couple days of bearish movement and is breaking down further today. These are all the types of setups that we have in these different base strategies. And so every day after the market, the system automatically goes through these 48 different strategies and it runs the odds maker in a way. It's not really running the odds maker, but it's doing the same thing, and it's looking at all the different filters. And in fact, let me do this. Let me show you. I'm going to show you kind of how we do it with one of the strategies today. So if I hit this fetch one, should bring up a couple windows that I had loaded into the cloud here. And this is going to describe how we do it specifically with float on. So float on was a strategy in a couple different segments today, and it's a strategy that looks for a lower float, a relatively lower float in that stock, and some type of upward movement. In this case, it's looking for a crossing above resistance type of event. So we start off with a base, and then every day after the market, it runs the odds maker. Like I said, it simulates running the odds maker. So let me do that. Before I do, just some quick little tutorial on it. A couple tabs up at the top. They all indicate specific things. When can I possibly enter into a trade? I can't trade. This is saying I'm not going to trade the first 15 minutes. I'm not going to trade the last hour and a half. And I'm going to hold it. I'm going to try to hold this position for 60 minutes. That's the idea behind this. But again, don't think that this is only something that should be held for 60 minutes. And you'll see through some of the trades why that's not necessarily the case. But we have to put in something here for optimization so that we could back test it and say, how would we have done if we would have done this? So then we have to tell it how, what's our profit target? In this case, $2. If it goes up $2, then, you know, get me out, and let's see what that profit is. And then I also have a stop loss, which is our smart stop. And the smart stop is an algorithm. It's different for every stock, but it's specific to that stock, its range for the day, its relative volume, and how it normally trades. So those are the factors that go into that. And then that's all. I'm just going to test it for 30 days. And this is the type of data that's presented to the end user if you're doing it. And it's the kind of data that's presented to the computer as well, but it's really just numbers, and it knows what to do with those numbers. So this is our base strategy. It's telling me that I have a profit factor of 1.78. That means the sum total of all the winning trades over the losing trades is a factor of 1.78. So that's good. If it was 1, then the total losing trades and the total winning trades would be the same. So this is better. It's a good start. A lot of trades, but keep in mind that the base strategy is going to have a lot more trades than you could possibly trade, because the computer is going to put some filters, apply some filters to it, and really refine that strategy. So this was taken from today, by the way. So, you know, this is the base strategy that it used to optimize yesterday after the market closed. And then we also have the optimized version of it. Before I show you the optimized version, this is what the computer is essentially doing. It's going into the optimization tab, looking at all the different segments. It'll break it down, the price, into $10 segments, $5 segments, all these different segments, and it'll tell you, well, how did that segment do? Well, stocks between $0 and $5 did this good. Stocks between 5 and 10, we won a little bit more, 54% of the time, with an average winner of this. So this is information, it's kind of basic information, but as you start to kind of drill over here, you're going to see how it works. So the time of day, you know, when was I profitable? Maybe I wouldn't want to trade this before 8 o'clock, just based on this information right here. Or maybe I'd only want to trade it for the first half hour. The real power comes here in the other filters. And the other filters is where the computer is going through every single filter that we have in trade ideas and saying, gosh, what if I put in an RSI of maximum of 70? How would that do? And it goes through all the different filters, does all these hypothetical odds maker runs to find something that is most profitable and what we call optimized. So I'll just kind of leave this summary right here. And as I go to the optimized strategy, I'll just right click, go to configure, and you can kind of see what's there. So this optimization probably only put about 4 additional filters, 3 or 4 additional filters on this strategy. And then once you run it, we'll go to the back test, we'll see how those 4 filters, how that impacted the profitability of the strategy. So this right here is after it's been optimized, added a few more filters, tweaked a few filters. Now you can see that the profit factor is at 5x. That's really good. The number of trades has dropped significantly to 80. So now I'm not going to maybe have 10 or 12 trades in a day. I'm going to have, you know, fewer trades. For instance, on the 21st, there were just 2 trades. So that then becomes the optimized strategy. So if I go into, and I close these guys here, and it's not this one. Let me bring up Holy Grail. That was the one that I pulled up. So if we bring up float on, and I go to the strategy for float on, these were the 3 signals that came from that optimized strategy. So this was the first one. And you can see that the signal was called right here at the blue line, and it went up pretty good and then just kind of meandered. This to me would be a really good opportune time to put in a price alert so that if it happens to cross that threshold tomorrow or the next day, then I'm going to be alerted to it. This has hit the AI a few times, and it looks like it's just been really consolidating at this price level. So, maybe something to look at. Maybe if I want to not be so tight at that price point, I can move it up just a little bit more. And these are all interconnected. I could grab it here and move it up, and it's up here now. So the price alerts are something that everybody should be using. So, okay, so David's asking a question here. What if you don't have any AI open, but are just looking at the stock charts and you see the blue arrow in its history, kind of like what we have here? And so what that is, that's a historical signal from the AI. It's not anything that happened today, but if you hover over it, it should tooltip and let you know exactly, when it occurred, what strategy it occurred in from a historical nature. And we're still doing a little bit of work in that regard to bring in all the 3 different AIs into that historical segment. So not only in the historical segment from the viewing on the chart, but the historical segment that's viewable here inside of the strategy trades window. So this here, we're pretty close to getting all 3 segments available in that particular area. So Waleed, I would love to be able to share. I was reluctant to do that one because I know everybody would ask, but unfortunately, I can't share the AI strategies. It's something that's really specific to the AI tech, and the reason is because that strategy is going to change tomorrow, and it's going to be updated tomorrow, and I just don't want to leave that out there the way that it is. So I apologize. All right, so that was. I hope that was helpful with respect to how the back testing works. But so as we get back into the AI, it's going through all of those optimizations every single day. And in the evening time, once they're all done, once the optimizations are done on all 3 different segments, the segments for the most part are very, very similar. However, Holly 2.0 has a couple additional strategies on it. Holly Neo has a couple of other strategies on it as well. And while they don't always make the cut, they're there in case they do. And Holly Neo is just a little bit more aggressive than some of the other channels, but it's given us an opportunity to be able to experiment. And while we haven't really taken the full breadth of the experiment yet, we do have the ability to tinker with the profit targets and the reduced risk and the profit save algorithms that are in place for the risk off trading as well. So that's something that we're in the process of enhancing in the software. Also, we're bringing a couple additional bells and whistles to the channel bar specific to the AI information. We're going to let you know which mode it's in. Is it in risk on mode or risk off mode? And you can toggle kind of another little Easter egg in the software. If you click on this risk on profit and risk off profit, you can toggle between the different modes. It tells you here which one is the most profitable mode, and you can always switch between them here. But toggling up here, and when you move to a particular segment, it's automatically gonna find which mode is best and display that. But we're going to be bringing that information right over here to the channel bar, so you're going to be able to tell which mode we're in, risk off or risk on, and you're also going to be able to tell how many positions out of the number of trades that have taken place happen to be open. In addition, it's going to flash and let you know that there's a new trade that occurred in that particular AI segment. So if you see in Holly 2.0 flash a new trade, you can just right click and just go right to 2.0. You don't even need to change channels. It's a super quick way to move between the segments. And like all the windows, especially the AI, it's important that you use just like in a top list window, you use those header columns to click around, because it's what brings the interesting information to your awareness. And one of the interesting fields here are the change over the last 5 and over the last 15 minutes. So these are nice fields that are always bringing, if you have it sorted on this dynamically, it's going to always bring those symbols that happen to be moving the most right to the top of that window. So a little bit of a note there. I think I do that all the time, but I don't ever just let it sit. A lot of times I'll just move over. If something's in risk off mode, then I'll be more interested in looking at the risk off profit percentage on that. But I'm not one to take it in its entirety. If we're in risk on mode, or I'm sorry, if we're in risk off mode and one stock is exhibiting behavior of something that's just behaving like a rocket ship, that doesn't mean that you get out of that just because that's the time horizon's expired. You have to be much more dynamic when you're trading, and it's not as black and white. So with respect to the price alerts, let me just show you a little trick on that as well. So if you go to price alert window, you have the ability to set up a couple different price alerts. And I've done that here where I've got one window is set up just for my triggered events. And this could be a window that's super small. And the other window happens to be my working one. And my working one may be off screen where I'm doing some notes or I'm cycling through some different symbols. It lets you know how far you are, from the current alert that's set. So you can always do some interesting sorting inside of the price alert. So it's not just something where, you right click and you create your price alert and you've got your notification when it breaks. It's also something that you can use as a window and go through during the trading day and, see some of the interesting things that are happening, sort on these different columns, the stocks that have the most relative volume. Relative volume, by the way, it's one of my favorite filters. It's probably one of the simplest filters, but just so that if you don't know, I'll explain it. It's a numerical representation as to what the current volume of the stock is compared to normal, and it's just done in a ratio fashion. So a value of 2 just lets you know that that stock at this point in time is trading 2 times its normal volume, and that's cumulative to this point in time. So it's a pretty powerful filter. So guys, I'm halfway through this. If you guys have any questions, I'm more than happy to take them. So Waleed, the composite ranking is something that it's going to be great, and it's I anticipate it'll be ready in about 2 weeks. It's already ready through a custom filter, and might be a good opportunity to introduce that to the group here. It's a custom filter that's using all of our technology, all our different filters, or not all of them, but a good number of our filters to come up with a value as to, how that stock is worthy of trading. Is that stock have a good value? Is that something you can feel confident entering into? Or is it something that might be a little suspect? So this is, it's coming, and let me show you how, for you guys, it's not going to be a custom filter, right? It's going to be a normal filter just like all of our other ones. But let me just go to our Trade Ideas homepage. It's something I wanted to show you anyway, so I think it's a good segue into it. Go to the support page, and under account management, I have custom formulas. Custom formulas, custom filters. Let's log in with this account right here. Okay, and so I don't think I have any freebie spots here, but that's okay. Let's find one that's simple and interesting. And so, okay, this one right here. So first of all, the custom filters, you can do some amazing mathematical stuff with them. But the caveat is that it has to be data that Trade Ideas is already analyzing and processing. So if it's one of those data points that we're doing something with, then you can take that data point and manipulate it mathematically. So a super simple example would be this volume growth right here. And so if I edit it, this is what the formula to get in. There's a help file right here. You just right click and you select a new tab, and the filter codes, new tab. With those tabs open, you've got everything you need to be able to create a nice little functional formula that is not only something that you can use as a filter, but you can also incorporate it as a column. You could use it in your back testing, so all these kinds of things you can use with the custom filters that you make. So this right here, what we're doing is we're creating a ratio here that's just taking a look at the volume average over the last 5 days and dividing that by the volume average over the last 3 months. So if there's volume growth, this is kind of like the profit factor, right? The sum total of winning trades over sum total of losing trades. This is just 5-day volume over 3-month volume. And if it's a value greater than 1, then you've got what's called increasing volume, volume that's really coming into the stock on a longer term basis, on a daily basis, rather than some type of intraday candle time frame. So that's a simple example, but if you look through some of the other custom filters that I put together, they can get somewhat sophisticated. In fact, this is kind of how we started off with the Smart Stop, and we were playing with these different values and filters and coming up with what we thought is a good metric to evaluate a particular security's volatility. And so you can do that. And there are some data points that aren't available through the standard trade ideas filters that we provide, and it's all explained in the instructions. But like today's high, the price for that, today's low, and you can figure out what the range is, and you can do all of that mathematical manipulation with these different data points. And it's only like it's a 9-page doc. You don't need to be a programmer to really get some value out of it, but it really does open up a wide range of additional things that you can do, and then you can get kind of cool and do some if-then statements and some booleans and really get some nice functions involved here. But it can be as simple as you want. If you want to know what the bid price is at the time of a signal, you can add that and you'd be able to see that. I don't know that there's much value there, but there's little things like that you can always add to the software. And then every one of the, as I mentioned, every one of the filters can be mathematically manipulated. So we're giving you the code that you would use. In this case, look, you've got the average volume over 3 months, average volume over 5 days. Those are the codes that were used to come up with that formula that we had up at the top, which is now gone. But so please be aware that's there. So Gregory's asking, how do you set up multiple price alerts? And that's something that I do quite regularly. In fact, something I do a lot of the times on the broader market. If I'm looking at the SPYs as kind of like an overall indicator, and I'm not always focused on it, I'll just put in some levels here, and you do it just by right-clicking, right? So this one right here has been triggered, it's green. I could grab it and move it, and now it'll turn blue and become active again. That's one way to do it. Another way is I can just select it like it is and hit delete to remove it. And if I want to just place an additional price alert here, just right-click, create a price alert. By default, or it knows that I clicked above the last price, so it's saying that when it crosses that threshold, it's assuming I want to go long. But it's possible that that's the threshold that I think it's going to bounce off of before it comes back down, and I could say, watch the resistance level. But maybe it's something that I want to short. And the reason why we give that ability is not just for this notification right here, but we also give you the ability inside of the price alert window to see exactly how your trades, well, they're not really trades, your notifications have been performing. So if I marked something as long and it continued to go up, then I'm going to have, it's going to be $1.29 from where it triggered. So that's a positive $1.29. Well, the summation of all of those triggered, positive and negative, comes out to 366. So if I deleted all of them, but this top one, QRVO, it's only going to say 129 right here. So it gives you a nice way. There's a lot of little Easter eggs in the software. It gives you a nice way to track kind of the stocks that you've been stocking, if you will, and see exactly how you would be doing if you'd be trading them. So 2 windows, okay. Sorry, I went through that whole explanation for that. There are a couple different ways. I mean, the software is so pliable that if I just had a price alert window right here and I right-clicked, I could just select duplicate. Duplicate's a function that we have. It's inside of most of the right-click menus. So if I happen to be here, I can duplicate it. If I'm on a chart and I've got it set up the way that I want, I can just duplicate it. If I created a top list window, and I want to do some modifications to it, but I want to keep this one here, I'll just right-click and duplicate it, and then I could go into the configure. So, but once I've duplicated the window, so I don't want to get ahead of myself. Once I've duplicated the window, there are a couple things that I'd want to do. These right here are both working. So I'd want to customize it to the view that I'm looking for. So it's been a while here. Show the filter up at the top. So this way I could say that this window here is going to be the stocks that are triggered. Not working. This will be my working. So that's one way to do it. And then, of course, you can just customize the columns that you want to view with that particular view. Once you save it, The saving to the cloud is also something that's really pretty sophisticated, even though it's a real simple function. You can do a lot of cool things with it. So let's say I've got my 2 price alert windows here. I can right click, go save to cloud. These are the last windows that I've been working with, so they're going to be down at the bottom. I could select both of these right here. So now I've got price alerts triggered and working. That's not good. And then I'll go ahead and save it. So now I can just bring it up at any time just by selecting it right here. Now I'll have duplicates. And the reason why I'll have duplicates is because I have these set to be pinned, because when I change channels, I don't like my price alerts disappearing. In fact, during the day, I usually have it just set up as a small little window in my upper right. That way, when notifications occur, I'm aware of them. So yeah, you can use that duplicate all over the place. Let's okay. Anything else, guys? Or I'll just keep talking. All right, James. Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, Barry is fantastic, and I'll just mention it, you know, towards the end of the presentation. I think it's one of the slides where we talk about the trading room. And please, folks, let me bring this back right here, because take you to our homepage. Couldn't be any easier to get there. Just go to the live room up at the top. Barry is using our software in a live trading environment with a group of very knowledgeable traders. It's really good information, and it's a great way to see how our tech is used in the real world and how you pull alpha out of the market using the different windows. And Barry's always toggling different ideas in different windows and crowdsourcing these ideas and providing his windows to the community. So just go in there, register. You have to do that one time. It's a different username that you'll create, but just register, and it's a free room. So I encourage you all to go in there. So thank you for that. All right, Marco, what's your question here? So let's do the Audible alert. So when you have a price alert occur, there are a couple different things that you can do. Not only a price alert, but also in our alert windows. We have an option here called actions. So when you right click in the window, select actions, you can have this play a sound so that you can get custom with it. You can do a text to speech. That's what we do with the AI signals that come through. You can use one of the predefined, or you could record your own WAV file and go ahead and use that as well. So once you have that set up, anytime there's a new signal, your price alert will pop up, and it will flash and give you that audible indication as to letting you know that something did just trigger. Just a point of reference with respect to the AI values that you see right here. There's some assumptions that we make, and the assumption that we're making is that you're going to trade 1 share of each signal that's being called, and if you would be trading 1 share of each stock, this is what you would be making. So if I sort this here on the risk on profit, Delphi Technologies right here, great short here, it made this call right here and just continued to peter down through the day. But this is basically the profitability of trading 1 share. So if you would have traded 100 shares, that would have been $159 profit. If you traded 1,000 shares, it'd be $1,590. So that's the way that the calculations work here. And then we're giving you the profit segment. This is always something, the percentage segment. It's always important to kind of see how we're doing, not just from a dollar perspective, because a lot of times you're going to trade a $100 stock and it's going to move up $1. And it's only 1%. You know, it's a good dollar return. Don't get me wrong, but you know, you also have to pay mind to what's the percentage move that's happening. And Holly has been a hunter recently and really finding some great percentage returns. So it doesn't look like these percentages were as strong, even though they're still pretty good. There wasn't one of those crazy outliers. You know, a lot of times we're going to find a nice 20 and 30% mover. It's definitely not out of the norm for that to take place. So let me see if there are any other questions here. So the difference between the up and down blue arrows. Yeah, sure. So let me bring in another stock as well. Let's take this one here and let's send to a chart. Make it a little smaller. And so now we can see one chart with a up arrow, one chart with a down arrow. So specifically, this is letting you know what's the direction of that signal. These are both AI calls, but this right here is a short. And you can see it's a short because the stop price, which is the red line, is above the signal. The green is below. So this is a short, down arrow, and this is a long, up arrow. And then if I change my time frame, you get a better indication of that. So I hope that helped, Abby. So let me bring in the compare count. So the compare count, you can configure it by default. I think we have it set up to look for new highs and new lows. But if you go in and you configure the green, you might want to try something where you're looking for bullish signal. So maybe not just new highs, but maybe things like maybe running up now, maybe generally running up. Maybe some breakouts, maybe a 5-minute high. So you can add these. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to collaborate. This is, okay, so this is a nice little flip trick for the people that are into configuring these windows and want to kind of learn something a little bit extra. I'm going to copy this green data that I just did, and essentially all I did was I added a couple new triggers here. So these are the new triggers that I added. So I'm just going to go ahead and select collaborate right here. This is the link that you just need to copy it into your clipboard. It's essentially all the different filter settings of this particular window. So now I'm going to go into this red data and I'm going to go back to collaborate and I'm just going to paste it. So now essentially I have a carbon copy of this window right here. Carbon copy is not going to work because they're both going to be the green events. But what I really want to do is I want to flip this. So instead of all these green events, I want to look for new lows, new pre-market lows, new post-market lows, running down, now running down, and the channel breakdown. So if I hit flip, it flipped all of those, and I'll hit OK. I should probably go back into it so you can see exactly what it did. And now all of these are the inverse. So what it does now is, and this isn't going to light up or do anything spectacular now because it's so late in the day, but it's going to make this window a lot more active. And now it's not just looking for the new high and new low events, but just strictly bullish movement that may be happening in the market. Why do you need a history? You have you've got the symbols going by here, and if you select one of them, one of the things that we are doing is we are going to be creating a couple filters out of this information, specifically this information right here. And what I like to do during the day is leave this running to give me a cumulative view, but I'll also use that duplicate feature and I'll just like grab it so that I have an instant view of what's happening and my cumulative view. And then during the course of the day, I'll kind of hit clear and kind of start fresh. So you can do that. So I got you, David. Yeah, I mean, there could always be some benefit in doing so, but that was never really the initial intent. So it would be, I'd have to take guys off other projects, and it's kind of a whole balancing act. But I hear what you're saying, and yeah, it probably would add a little bit of insight that could be interesting. So that, just like the other windows, the single stock, you have so many different choices from what to include here. Essentially, all the different filters that are available inside of Trade Ideas. And this is a good way to drill in and see exactly just specific information for a stock as you pull it up. So if you're looking at HP, you can kind of drill into it here, and you can see, you know, what's the float, what's the short float, what's some of the information that you may be looking. When did it have earnings? So it was 19 days ago it had earnings. You know, different information like that. So just customize it, and on the profile, you can get a synopsis of what the company does and where it lies within the different sectors, subsector, industry group. And I'll kind of tie that together for you so you can see how that relates. So if I go to one of my windows, it doesn't matter whether it's a top list or an alert window or what have you, if I right click and I go to configure, right now we're looking at the broader market. We're looking at everything that meets this filter criteria, and then we're ranking it based upon the gap. But, you know, I do have access to symbol lists. I can make my own symbol list if I wanted to, a portfolio of 100 different stocks if I wanted to. But I want to kind of show you how this works from the grouping perspective. If I go to add existing list, and I want to say examine just a particular sector, maybe it's that I want to just look for mining, and I want to look for stocks that happen to be in this mining, quarrying, and oil and gas extraction. So I'm going to use this as a roadmap here to find where it is, and I'll just scroll down to sectors. And so I'm going to expand this tree for sectors, and you can see mining, quarry, and oil. So mining, quarry, and oil. If I wanted to continue to drill into it, I could do it. And you can see how it's laid out with this particular stock, how HP kind of finds its way into this group. And then if you want to use that, you can just select it, and it'll appear as a list. And now I could say only the following list. And now it's a selective up gappers in that particular space. So that's how you do that. All right, I'm going to wind it down here unless there are any other questions, and I'm going to bring Scott back to close it off here. Thank you, Mike and Waleed. Appreciate that. All right, Scott, you're on, bud?
Yeah, right, thank you. Yeah, a couple items on the way out. So Brad mentioned earlier in the webinar about the event that we're having in October. So go to, you can advance to the next slide there, Brad. And that goes to tradeideasevent.com to learn more about attending. We do currently have early bird pricing, so right now tickets are all half price. So do take a look at that. And if you decide to join us, we have a hotel to recommend as well. So check that out. It's at the footer of the event page. We have a podcast that comes out every Friday, and if you go ahead and search for Trade Ideas Podcast, next slide, please. If you go to if you search for Trade Ideas Podcast in whatever app you usually listen to podcasts in, you can just subscribe, and then you get the latest episode, and you're ready to get the next one. They usually come out on Fridays about midday. There is an ebook that is timely for the crazy markets we're in. Go to trade-ideas.com/ebook and plug in your email address to get the download link sent to your email. And it's very useful. Some of our educators, including like Steve, Jamie, Sean, Andy, they contributed chapters, so do check that out. There's a discount code this month that will save you 15% off your first month or year of Trade Ideas. Use Alpha for August before the end of the month to save 15% off your first month or year. For today, at least, you can still use that for an upgrade. We may be changing some of the upgrade path stuff later on this week, but for right now, go ahead and give it a shot. It's a great way to save on your first installment of premium if you're not yet a premium member, or just start a subscription using it for either standard or premium, and saves you a bundle. Email us at info@trade-ideas.com if you have any questions. You can follow Trade Ideas on Twitter. You can also find us on Facebook at facebook.com/TradeIdeasPro. And like everything that we post so your friends see it. Thank you, Brad, and thanks all.
Thank you, Scott. Thanks, everybody. Have a great evening.
Later on, guys.